Hey guys, sorry this is taking so long to get up online today. I had a little trouble making it earlier. This is going to be a review sheet, your review video for Chapter 7, Chapter 8, and Chapter 9. I'm just going to go through the entire review sheet with you and then post it. Excuse me. Your test is 31 questions. They are all just straight up multiple choice answers, A through E. So make sure you prepare yourself for tonight for it, and if you have any questions about it, please come see me tomorrow morning. So let's get started here with Chapter 7 stuff. During the Jeffersonian era, there was a lot of different characteristics that he had on education, his interpretation of the Constitution, his views on slavery. The biggest one we're going to focus in on is education, and he really believed the characteristic of education was going to be private institutions dominating the educational system. Obviously, his interpretation on the Constitution changed over the course of time, especially with the Louisiana Territory, and I'll talk about that here more in a second. The Second Great Awakening resulted in increased belief in salvation. Religion was still very important, but now it was through their faith and through other good works. There was a movement towards churches were still important, but there was a movement away to just doing more good work, good deed type things. The American Industrial Revolution in the early 1800s resulted in technology advances imported from England, the appearance of a better transportation system, new inventions like the cotton gin, and the development of the advanced steam engines. The other thing, too, with the cotton gin was the invention of the cotton gin led to growing spread of cotton throughout the entire upland South because it was extremely important to the economy of the southern plantations. Jefferson, Louisiana Territory, we talked about how he doubted that he had the constitutional authority to purchase the land because it was not specifically stated in the Constitution. This is where he went from a very strict interpretation to a very loose interpretation of the Constitution. The War of 1812 occurred. With the results, I mean that the European conflict on the seas and the American westward expansion was really one of the biggest results of that. Moving on to Chapter 8, let me move this up a little bit for you. Chapter 8 here, growing nationalism, and this is going to start with the impressments, and that the British increased their use of impressment due to the fact that the Americans employed British deserters in the U.S. Navy, so we were trying to make our Navy a little bit more powerful there. The nationalism, too, led with the crisis over the admission of Missouri into the Union with the Missouri Compromise. The charter of the Bank of the United States that expired in 1811, the state banks basically were issued banknotes that circulated as money, and that was the problem that we had with the paper money. We didn't know how much we actually had out there. Moving on, the textile industry that we were working on. It expanded tremendously in both before and after the War of 1812. It saw the opening as the first American mill combining with spinning, weaving under the same roof, especially up in the Northeast, like Waltham, Massachusetts, and Lowell, Massachusetts. It suffered from the British dumping underpriced goods into the American market. And we also experienced less foreign competition after the tariff of 1816. Following the War of 1812, westward expansion increased because of the Indian opposition to the white settlement was decreased significantly during the time period. From 1817 to 1821, the era of good feelings was really the reason why it was the era of good feelings was because there was only one major political party in the country at the time. The Panic of 1819 resulted in a land boom, easy credit for Bank of the United States, increasing world prices for American farm products, and exceptionally high prices for American farmers. So there was a little bit of a panic there. It wasn't a recession or a depression, just a panic of issue with money. Under the Missouri Compromise, slavery was prohibited in the rest of the Louisiana Territory north of the southern border of Missouri. And then all the court cases, Fletcher versus Peck, the protection of contracts from violation of state government, McCulloch versus Maryland, implied powers was valid. where Gibbons versus Ogden, 1824, strengthened the power of Congress to regulate interstate commerce. So make sure you go through all of the court cases that we had there. The decisions of the Marshall Court established a power that the federal government to promote economic growth for the most part. And the effect of the Monroe Doctrine, one immediate effect was it served as an important expression of the emerging American nationalism. The corrupt bargain dealt with trade. John Quincy Adams maintained that traded with Henry Clay for the presidency, and then in return Henry Clay would be given Secretary of State. The Tariff of 1828 and the election of 1828. Tariff was not popular in New England because it protected raw materials, and the election of 1828 characterized the emergence of a first time we really saw a popular two-party system. Okay, so that would be Chapter 8. Chapter 9 down here is dealing with mainly Jacksonian America. His characteristics, like Jefferson, on similar systems, especially the spoils system and the common man, was that Jackson believed that he needed to challenge the power of Eastern elites and wanted to break them down and have the common man be more supported. During his presidency, the common people gained political power through following means: the creation of a national nominating conventions, elimination of property qualifications for voting, increased the opportunity to hold political office, and challenge the entrenched office holders. He really wanted to make voting easier for all people. Jackson did. His spoils system that he put into place really dealt with taking about 1 out of 5 every federal office holders out and placing him with a friend or political ally. Nullification, response to nullification. Individual state should have the right to declare federal laws all unconstitutional. In response to it, what did Jackson do with South Carolina with the force bill? Strengthening federal forts, sending warships to Charleston Harbor, all that stuff, ordering several revenue ships into Charleston Harbor as well. Jackson and the Marshall Court, obviously, he did not want to enforce the decisions of Georgia, Worcester versus Georgia, Cherokee Nation versus Georgia. The Bank of the United States ensures small state banks followed some financial policies, try to issue reliable bank notes that serve as a legal tender, served as a depository for funds for the federal government, and providing credit for new businesses overall. Where else here? Last two things here. Jacksonian America, the democratic philosophy, was a stimulation of the economy by the federal government. And the Panic of 1837 was a presidential order requiring federal land to be paid for, the withdrawal of federal funds from state banks, the removal of foreign money from the United States banks as well, and a succession of crop failures all led to the Panic of 1837. It was not a time for easy credit to come about for the Bank of the United States as well. So, okay, that's it. If you have any questions, please email me tonight, or I will see you tomorrow. Have a good Sunday afternoon.